Welcome to Voices of the Code. My name is Karl Murray, and with me, as always, is the fantastic Stephen Fox.
You always do that intro, and I'm like, I never know how to react to it because, whatever. Hello, everyone.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great? All right, so we have a really awesome guest, and I'll let Stephen introduce him because I'm needing a drink of water suddenly.
Yes, welcome to the show, Kevin.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, Kevin Olliot.
Awesome. I met Kevin in Laracon in 2024, and we just kicked it off really quickly, I think largely because we found out that we live relatively close to one another here in the East Coast area. And then, yeah, we wound up having lunch together at a fantastic barbecue spot. I got to know a little bit about what he's currently doing.
I have to ask, what barbecue spot are we talking about here?
Oh,
man.
Shoot. Do you remember? It was, if you went like slightly northeast of the conference venue, it's one of the famous ones. Now you're going to make me look it up. Like,
Yeah.
yep,
People are going to be upset that we don't remember.
a minute into this show, and now I don't remember. So anyways, yeah, we met. I'm going to look it up. This will be a great opportunity for Kevin to introduce himself.
Sure.
And yeah, but I just got to know him a little bit and talk about his current roles and some stuff that he's doing. So Kevin, we always like to kick this off, just kind of learn a little bit about what got you into programming. This has been a lifelong thing. And yeah, walk us through what got you into writing a whole bunch of text into things that gets executed by a computer.
Yeah, sure. Man, okay, starting back to the beginning. So I was always into computers, mostly from like a gaming perspective. I was one of those kids that like built a computer with my friends, did LAN parties in my house playing like RuneScape and World of Warcraft and stuff like that. Yeah.
RuneScape.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. The cloud
that's a
VOG.
throwback.
Yep.
That's a
are we
throwback.
still playing RuneScape, or are we on Classic, or did you upgrade to the newest one?
I am playing RuneScape Classic. I won't play RuneScape 3. I can't do it. I can't do it. But yep, I am playing a little bit of RuneScape Classic. Yeah, I would just I would tinker around with that, and then at some point I just started writing like Visual Basic scripts to do the most random stuff, like password protect some folder for some like random reason, make the computer talk to me like it was Jarvis or something like that. And then I eventually got into editing the Windows registry. I think it's been a while since I've messed around with the Windows registry to give myself a hidden admin account. So, because my dad installed this like software that limited the amount of World of Warcraft I could play. So I made this hidden admin account so I could play more World of Warcraft.
This is great.
Yeah, so that's how I got into started a black hat career into no, just kidding. And got into that, and then I was just always interested. I started in PHP. I've pretty much always been in PHP, and did vanilla PHP websites for some family friends for like their websites for their small businesses. Eventually discovered WordPress and started doing WordPress sites there. And eventually got like a job doing tech support at a company that made they kind of had their own like PHP custom MVC, and so then eventually moved into like a tech role there, and yeah, just kind of went on from there. Just kind of eventually from WordPress discovered Laravel and never left.
When was that? About what time? Like what year would you say?
Gosh, time's a human
Well, what
construct.
version, if you remember it?
Version, I'd probably say, I think 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
I can't remember what year that would have been.
Good...
Is that like 2017,
2020?
Yeah.
No. Is it really that recent?
Yeah. We're only on 12 now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, about 5 years ago.
Roll back. Roll back. Oh, okay.
Well,
so
most
it's probably
importantly,
19 or 18, but yes.
Most importantly, it was Terry Black's barbecue.
Yes.
That's right. That's
where we had lunch.
Yep.
Terry Black's.
It's good lunch. I ordered way too much brisket.
It was the biggest barbecue joint I've been to, and like because there was a ton of people in there, seating outside and as well, and it's a good thing I just had dinner. Otherwise, I'd get hungry thinking about it. But it was really good barbecue.
Yeah.
It was really good. We have some pretty good barbecue where, around these parts where we live, but it was pretty phenomenal. So anyways, not to just completely derail your segue into Laravel
Well, I
and
was
how
going to
you
say
got
that
into
was a
it. But
great segue into our sponsor, Terry Black's Barbecue.
Thank you, Terry Black's Barbecue. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just kidding.
I pull up the shirts,
Yeah.
Terry Black's.
Dude,
I'm just
depositing that
kidding.
$0
Nobody
check was
sponsors this show other than. Just kidding. Nobody sponsors this show other than Steven and
Steven and Carl.
But if you
But we're
want to
accepting
sponsor us, just send us some gear. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so we got into Laravel. We'll call it roughly 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And what was your first kind of professional use of the framework? Was it doing it at that company or for something else?
Yeah, I was at a company. They developed like a whole WordPress ecosystem for real estate agents, I think. And I eventually kind of needed to do some like advanced processing on like different like financial stuff for the company um, and the clients. And so one of the developers there, like you just mentioned this thing called Laravel to me, and I just started digging into it, and I created this whole like batched before batching was a thing, like batched queue jobs and all that to do all this like financial processing to generate a report. And that's kind of like my first foray into Laravel, and then kind
Nice.
of dived in from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it the tagline "Your code should be beautiful" that got you into it?
Oh yeah. It was the expertly spaced and typed out comments and all that. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I missed out
Yes.
on the dragon, I think, though, unfortunately.
The dragon?
The Laravel dragon that used to be in the code.
Yeah, didn't they like have us do a transform on it with at the conference?
It's something like that. Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway.
quick little random question. I really like the queue stuff with Laravel, right? It's like such a powerful feature.
Yeah.
Would you put that amongst like your most, I'm gonna say like valued features of Laravel, right? Like, do you use it a lot in the stuff you do, Kevin?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do. We in my current role, we process like massive amounts of data from student information systems, and so everything has to be
Right.
queued at that point. We send millions of emails like at the click of a button that an advisor
Mhm.
sends out to like a whole subsection. So like queues are definitely like one of the strongest things. We've tested like almost everything that Laravel can do to the limit with what we do, and queues is definitely one of them. Like we've had to make some like slight changes to how some things work underlying, and it's just like it gets you there like 99% of the way, and it's just such a powerful feature. Definitely.
Okay. So you teased a little bit of what you're doing now. Help us fill this gap and
Yeah, please. I
And-
am.
Sure. Yeah.
If you
So
what
guys
other
aren't
roles you
watching the
had
video
before you
podcast-
landed at your current place?
what was that last part?
I said just kind of fill in the other roles that I know you've had before you landed at your current job, and then we'll keep going with that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I worked at various companies, like a company that did websites for nonprofits and churches, built Laravel and WordPress apps for them. That was just like I was just like a software developer at that point. Eventually moved up into being a senior at a real estate agency, and then eventually moved on and worked at the agency Kirschbaum. If you folks are familiar with that, I worked on like a whole bunch of different Laravel projects there. Got a chance to work on like different things for colleges, like small tiny apps for like little mom and pop shops, huge enterprise level apps. I even built like a really big application for the music industry that ended up being listed in Billboard magazine. That was super cool.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
nice.
And then, yeah, it was neat. I got it framed and everything. That was super cool.
Nice.
And then I landed in my current role, which is software development director of Canyon GBS. We build purpose-built software for the public sector. So like post-secondary education, governments, municipalities, stuff like that. Currently focusing, like our big mission is to help students get into college and graduate college by building software that can, like, for underprivileged institutions that can really just help advisors, help students, and help students make it through their collegiate career.
Nice. Nice. And so you said director of engineering. Does that mean your day has a lot of coding in it, or are you mostly sort of reviewing, strategizing, architecting? What does your role really look like?
Yeah, that depends on the day. We're this weird position where we have a good amount of funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We recently got a grant from them, and so we're like this weird point where we're a startup, but we act like an enterprise company because we really want to be. So we're ISO 2007 certified. We're SOC 2 compliant from the very beginning, like the foundation of the company. Our audits have like had nothing in them that's been found. And so like I have such like a weird role because like typically software development directors or the role I started in SDM, you don't spend a huge amount of time like in code. You're mostly doing reviews or like architectural planning. I do both. It really depends on the day. I do high level architectural planning for like the future of things we're working on, and then I also take some like bigger bigger items to work on out of the backlog and kind of still kind of get my feet wet in code every day. So yeah.
Nice, nice. How big of a team do you guys have there?
We're currently at let's see, 10, I think, at the time of this reporting, and we're currently actively recruiting for software engineers. So if you want to work with me,
Hey, you
yeah,
heard it here first. Sweet.
you heard me first. Yep.
What's
Currently
the
active.
email address? I might
What's
know a guy.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. Yeah. I'll send over the job description and all that. So yeah, we're looking for software engineers. We're a fast growing team. We've got currently looking for software engineers to kind of start building up the team of like senior technical leadership and all that.
Yeah, yeah. You guys have done a really, really good job. I mean, it's pretty amazing to hear what you guys have accomplished as a company in such a short
Thanks.
period of time and landing like real customers and
Oh yeah.
doing a lot of the, like you said, I mean, you guys are like very enterprisey for how new you are to the landscape and
Yeah.
how small the team is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
I am a little bit curious, Kevin. Um, not related to like any company specifically, but you're a developer that we have talked to that has fulfilled both corporate roles, right, where you're working for a single company to do a particular role, and then you've also worked for an agency where you inevitably end up jumping from project to project with these shorter timelines, and you see multiple apps in a condensed kind of format.
Yep.
Can you just kind of like let me know what you think about both styles of working, like any pros and cons you see, and you can just kind of let other devs in the Laravel space know, like, hey, this is what I really like about corporate stuff, but this is what I really liked about working at an agency, and vice versa. Anything that's, I'm sure there's maybe negatives to either side. So just kind of curious since you've played both roles.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating question, honestly, and something I think about quite a bit of like, what is my opinion on that? But yeah, so you know, if I'd start off with advice, I'd probably say, like, as a developer, you should try out both. Like, they're such different realms. Like, they seem so similar in many respects, but it's really different. One
Oh,
of the things
vastly.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the things that one of the core things I struggled with uh in agency was that like you really put your heart and soul into like the products you're making as developers, right? Like if you really
Uh,
care about like what you're working on. And when you work at an agency, often, and this can happen working in enterprise, you can get laid off or anything like that. But very often, like the client drops off, the project just ends or something like that. So you end up like these shorter terms, like you almost feel like it's like heartbreak, in some
right.
sense. You kind of you like kind of lose your baby in some sense of doing that. But agency work is it's so good for like getting an amazing amount of experience into a career. You
Uh,
get
uh,
such a breadth of knowledge of like starting off with a greenfield project and kind of like really getting your skill, like sharpening your teeth on doing that. getting into like an angel project where you're like saving something that's kind of already been built and you need to piece it back together. Different industries, different sizes of scale needed. That's like that's like such a benefit you can get. So I think like anyone in our situation should try to work at an agency at some point. It really just kind of gives you this like really nice breadth, I think, of experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. What was
Yeah.
like the typical tenure? How much time would you find yourself working on a particular client's project when you were within an agency?
Yeah.
Is it weeks, months,
Typically, like
years?
in the agencies I worked at, yeah, in the agencies I worked at, it'd be like a year at kind of like the
Oh, wow.
minimum. Maybe there was maybe somewhere I would do something for like 6 months. But typically at agencies that I eventually was employed at, we took on like longer form projects, where we'd be in an embedded team or something like that. And so like I've typically done like a year stint. What some projects I've even been in for like 2 years. So I guess like in some respect, like it's roughly similar in my experience when I've done those projects to working at like a corporate environment. The major difference, there's still like a cultural difference, I think there. Like you like working to flip onto the other side, like working at a more like structured corporate organization style, there's a lot more like skin in the game almost. Like
Yeah.
you feel a lot of like you wear the t-shirt with the logo on it, around your house. Like you feel really connected to what you're doing there. And you
Right.
can kind of like have just much more road for advancement within the company at that point.
Yeah. A bit more of a long game.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, Carl, do you have any questions at this point?
I have
You've been
lots.
you've been quiet
but
over there.
com-
You're probably been Googling Canyon GBS and a bunch of this other stuff.
We're
yeah,
source
like,
available too, by the way, so you can look at the repo. You can see me
Oh,
being, yeah.
that's a really cool topic, actually. I didn't realize this until one of our recent conversations that we had before this recording. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, whose decision was it to go source available, and what has that meant for your company or team? And it's not something that we see a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely open source and then closed source, and not a whole lot of people that are doing, hey, our source is out there. We're just not really accepting random pull requests. So
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us what that looks like for you guys.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, our two flagship products are source available, like I said, and that's Advising app, which is more on the collegiate post-secondary. Its tooling includes like a ChatGPT similar AI tool that's like privacy compliant for colleges, much cheaper than ChatGPT for colleges as well. And then they have retention and recruitment CRM. That's Advising app. Aiding app is kind of like a help desk solution for governments and municipalities, um, integrating like different AI solutions, and different like more modern help desk ideologies to kind of help along for folks that can't get some of the more expensive tools. So the decision to make those source available was actually our CEO, the founder of our company. He's
Cool.
Joe Licata. Yeah, he's a huge proponent of open source and the tech community. We work together to kind of start the foundation of this version of Advising app and Aiding app. And since the beginning of it, you can see the first commits that myself and then eventually Dan did. We Yeah, it's all just kind of publicly available. Like I said, it's source available. You kind of mentioned it a bit. We're not like necessarily, accepting pull requests at this point. If folks had it or like issues and all that, nobody's done that yet, but we would consider it, I think. But yeah, we're really just wanting to like do the best enterprise code for this sector using Laravel, and we're hoping that folks can kind of learn from that our experiences and our knowledge can be shared, we believe that like our tools, that like the services that we offer in hosting it in our unique way and selling it, doesn't require it to be closed source. Like you can't copy the magic of like the new features and the innovation that we do as we kind of build it. So helping the community and being able to just kind of see what we're doing, we think is very important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I liked it a lot. As soon as you told me that it was source available, it was fun to just go, code diving and see how you guys do stuff and like look at pull requests and see how they're described and what changes are there and all of that type of stuff. It was pretty cool. Karl, have you seen much of that? Like from your experience, do you know of other, not side hustle projects or just companies, that have
I don't do
source
side
available
hustle
stuff?
projects at the moment.
Larabets.
And what work have we done on Larabets in a while?
Calling you
We were
out.
supposed to release that February.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that it always runs over, the deadline. You gotta pad it.
Well, the issue is we haven't committed to it in a while either. Steven and I have both had a crazy couple of months. Like, I would call Steven and be like, "Hey, man, we need to do a podcast," and he'd be like, "Yeah, let's do a podcast." And then a couple of days would go by, and we're like, "Yeah, I got crazy busy at work," and Steven's like, "Yeah, I did too." So
this is why it's been like literal months since we've done one of these episodes. So.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy time.
I guess I can touch on that for a second. Life has been crazy for us. So this is still a thing. We're still working on it. We're still working on Larabets. We just need time. And unfortunately, we do not have an unlimited amount. And Stephen and I both have very young children. And so this gets to be a lot of fun to actually have time to sit down and breathe for 5 minutes and talk to somebody else and get to know them and see how they're working, what they're working on, and all this kind of stuff. This is a lot of fun, guys. Be on the podcast. Just come on. It's great.
Do it. It's fun.
All right. Pitch over. we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah. Karl, what's your take on source available for?
I really like the
businesses?
idea of source available. I have not seen it as much as I would like to. And the reason I like it so much is because it does give newer developers the opportunity to look at something and go, okay, they decided to do it that way. Maybe there's a reason for that. One of the ones I see often is why developers would use translations, even though their app is only available in English. And so you're like, okay, what's the purpose behind that? What's the, I hate to quote Maui, but what's the lesson? What's the takeaway?
Yes.
Told you, I have really young kids.
Oh my God, you do have kids.
Oh,
man.
But
what's even worse is right now, your welcome is just rolling through my head. So you just derailed my entire thought process.
Yeah.
To follow that up, you're welcome, Steven.
Yeah. Ding.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I do like that. I do mentor to some, I don't want to say they're underprivileged, but they definitely don't have the resources that I wish I had growing up. And so it is really nice to be able to go, hey, this is production code. Like you can look at it right now and take ideas from it and implement. And I really like, I was at Laracon 2024 as well. And Luke Downing walked on stage and was like, what can you learn from Laravel New? And okay, so you can learn a lot from Laravel New. We learned that from Luke. What can you learn from a open source / code available product like Kevin's?
Yeah, like a full thing.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's things here. There's commit messages. There's some type of comments or not comments, but readable code that explains why we did things the way that we do them. But the other part that I liked that Kevin said is Laravel is enterprise ready out of the box. Yeah. You do not need to do anything to make it Laravel ready or enterprise ready. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people forget about as well is, hey, I've got a new Laravel application. I have to load it up with stuff I may or may not ever touch or use because those are enterprise ready. And it's like, that's not necessarily the truth.
Okay, here's a segue for you. What kind of database are you guys using at Canyon?
The only correct choice, which is Postgres.
Oh, here we go, baby. Here we go.
Yep.
SQLite users, please shield your ears.
Don't come at me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hot take. Let's hear it, Kevin.
Yeah. The only right one, which is Postgres. Yeah. So sorry, folks. Yeah, we chose Postgres. For like,
what's the logic behind that?
Yeah. Give us the lowdown.
The lowdown is performance-wise outperforms MySQL and some of the others. We also liked some of the way we could customize certain data types. We have like a lot of different ways we have to parse data, and data that comes from external SIS, student information systems, which can come in like any sort of data format. And so we've had to create some custom types to be able to handle that. Some more advanced relationships. One of the biggest core reasons why we chose Postgres at first was, have you guys ever heard of foreign data wrapping?
I don't think I have.
Enlighten us.
Data wrapping.
Yeah. So originally,
No.
we don't do this now. No, never heard of it. Yeah, we don't do this now. But the original idea was that instead of like pulling data in from student information systems, we wanted to use this concept called foreign data wrapping in Postgres, which essentially allows you to have Postgres treat a table in an external database as if it is a local table in your database. So we'd have like the students table hosted at this completely separate SIS system, and Postgres would just handle getting the connection data and running and modifying the queries to kind of retrieve and read and write from that table. And we could just treat it like a completely native table within our application. And we set up the full prototype for that, and it worked, and it was amazing. And I still dream about it to this day because we had like,
hold on.
Yeah.
Is it doing like a local copy of that external table?
It would, if I remember correctly, because it's been a couple of months, I haven't read the documentation directly. It doesn't do a local copy. It just, you give it the credentials and it makes the SQL queries remote and does some like Postgres trickery in the background to just act as if it's a local table that you're just querying to get the data.
That is wild.
No, that's insane.
My first guess was that it was almost using like a kind of like a clustering setup, right? Like a replica, right? And using
something like a
kind of
materialized view or something.
Yeah, some
it sounds
similar
like it's
logic
doing more
there,
of a proxy.
It's literally just saying, oh hey, when I need data from this table, like it's not on disk or in RAM, it's at this connection.
It's at this connection. Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah, and they have all sorts of connections out to different database types. We connected to AWS Redshift. We'd have the college normalize the data into that, and then we'd pull it in, and then we could just treat it like any other table. Laravel wouldn't know the difference, and it worked really well. Yeah, we eventually moved on
read
from
only?
No.
Damn. So you need a lot of trust.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well,
let me put it this way: foreign data wrapping is not read only. We did read only just because student information systems. I don't want to mess with like college student data. I don't want to overwrite that. So we didn't do that. And it worked great. We switched off of that for just business reasons of working with the college to normalize the data and everything. It just wasn't feasible in doing that. And we moved on to like a more syncing process. And then, so we had Postgres and we were kind of settled in there. The performance just really seemed to outperform everything. The custom types we made a huge amount of use of. I've always been a big fan of I lost my train of thought there actually.
It's okay. I have a question for you. You mentioned the performance is really good. Is it a myth that like MySQL reads are typically quite faster than Postgres?
I can
Or has
answer
that
this
not been
question
your
because I've actually
experience?
done the research on it. It depends
Cool.
on the amount of data, and it's ever so slight. It is not even noticeable to the human.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
There's
much
a fair-
data?
More than anything, it has to do with how much RAM Postgres uses versus how much
Okay.
RAM MySQL uses.
Okay.
So there is a huge difference in the amount of RAM to performance. You can tell I've done research on this. This is crazy. It's the amount of RAM to performance versus what MySQL uses. Now, the biggest perk to using Postgres is they tend to launch new features very quickly. Like they come up with an
Right.
idea and they're like, that's coming out next month. Versus MySQL will be like, oh, you want to be able to handle longitude and latitude? Yeah, those are strings for now. If you want to do something else with it later, then we'll turn it into a feature, but it's going to take years before it becomes something real.
JSON
Yeah.
support's so good too in Postgres.
There's a huge performance increase with going with Postgres for JSON over MySQL.
Yeah.
Specifically when you're parsing.
Yeah.
Does-
We're using
so
all the.
Does
Okay.
Postgres do clustering? Can you shard your data across multiple server hosts with Postgres?
You can, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You should almost never, because there's a lot of
tell that
performance
to
there.
the people that have really large databases.
Large data sets. Yeah.
Yep. Understood, but for the large majority of people, there's not really a value in it.
Yeah.
That goes back to the don't do it until you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just been in a situation where I need it, and with MySQL, like your option is to go planet scale. So you actually need a piece of Go software sitting in front of your MySQL boxes in order to figure out all of this sharding.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that got me really turned on to Single Store. I don't know if you guys have heard about that,
yeah.
but
I've heard of it.
it's oh boy, we could have a totally different conversation on that, but it looks really, really cool. It's what they use with Fathom Analytics. But does Postgres, do you know out of like standard, can you do sharding?
I think you can. Yeah. I haven't
must, 'cause
explored that much recently.
Aren't they doing, for Laravel Cloud, they're using serverless Postgres, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Don't they have the option to do serverless Postgres? Are you talking about for the
RDS?
I feel like right now, like that is your option, is serverless Postgres.
I believe it's RDS. I could be wrong.
Well, RDS, you have the option to
Technically is.
serverless
Okay,
Postgres. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have different options. You have Aurora serverless Postgres, Aurora serverless MySQL. No, wait, now.
Okay.
I just put my foot in my mouth. Is there serverless MySQL in Aurora? I don't remember now. Viewers, tell us.
Please comment and tell us
tell
how
it.
we're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're working on MySQL for cloud. I guess something
They
like
are currently, at the time of recording, they're currently out of bandwidth for it, though.
Yeah.
So if you try to go to cloud and spin up a MySQL, it'll say it's not available for developers. It's out, like they're out of the bandwidth, but it shouldn't be used in production environments.
Yeah.
They specifically say that in
Interesting.
the docs.
Okay. Okay. So
But-
Postgres, huh?
Postgres. That's the
Postgres.
answer.
I've like barely used it. It's one of those things that I'd have to learn a little bit of new SQL syntax. Yeah. It's like a little.
It's mostly
different
drag and
for-
drop.
It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it's
one
mostly
thing
drag
you'll
and drop.
miss. There's one thing you'll miss. There is no after. There is no being able to put a column in a location after another column. That is
Oh.
one of the two biggest downsides to Postgres. So everything goes to the end of the table.
But wait a month and they'll fix it.
The
I'm just kidding.
the discussion
I
for
know.
that has been going on for like years at this point. Like people have been asking for that. I think it would take like a pretty significant rewrite is the last that I read in order for them to support it. Yeah, that's an interesting caveat of Postgres. Another one is that we've actually run into before, specifically when we were doing a lot of the form data wrapping stuff, is a lot of people don't know this, but MySQL, technically, when you do an insert, wraps your insert for you in a database transaction. And so if there's a failure in that, then like your connection is okay and you can just continue to make continued connections. Postgres won't do that for you out of the box. And so like if you have like an SQL, like a pure SQL error, you'll corrupt your connection and you actually have to like drop that connection and reconnect, do some finagling to get that back. And so there's some weird stuff that can kind of go on there if you accidentally trigger a like an actual true SQL error while using Postgres that we kind of had to like navigate around. Which I started at one point to start to like write a like a contribution back to Laravel to kind of wrap that, but the point in which you have to do that is pretty deep, I think, in the Laravel code that it was hard to kind of do that in like a way to be compatible with all the drivers. But
I see.
yeah, that's been messy. That's been messy fast.
All right, I'm going to test another of your Postgres knowledge. I should probably just take Aaron's like Postgres course or something because
Yeah.
instead of asking you the questions. But I'm curious, do you know if you have an existing table with a whole bunch of data in it and you add or change an index for that table, does it have to like completely lock that table and build the index at that moment?
That's a good question. I couldn't give you the answer off
It
the
was
top
my
of my head for.
question. Did that even make sense? Like,
Yeah, that did make sense.
I've
Yeah,
literally
that
run into an
totally
issue
made
in the
sense.
past, right, where a table had 100 million rows, right?
Yeah,
And we needed to add a compound index.
yeah.
And like, as soon as you do that, MySQL is just going to lock the table and like hold it until, and it's actually the same for, I think, adding a column, or maybe it is exclusively adding the column and not the index. I don't know. There was some situation where we're trying to do something to alter the table,
Yeah.
and then it would just hang for like minutes because it was trying to add this stuff with it. And it completely blew us up. And that was like actually one of the big reasons for considering going to Planet Scale, if I remember correctly. So they can kind of do that in
done that before. But MySQL, when I worked at the travel company, we actually had to migrate 20 million records from one table to another one. And we had to do it over the course of, I think it was 2.5 months. Because if we did it any faster than that, it would just crash our production database.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like I think the strategy I've heard when you do need to do that is you create a whole new table with the schema you're looking for that's empty. You then copy over on the MySQL side, which won't lock the table. And then as soon as you're ready, you just swap the name of the tables and delete the old one.
Yeah, we do similar strategies to that.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to be able to add a column and not have it hang for 5 minutes.
The favorite part of that strategy. The favorite part of that. Yeah, I'm sure it is. The favorite part of that strategy is, as a pro tip, put an underscore in front of your title, and that will let people know not to touch it.
Yeah. Or a TMP underscore in front of it or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't like TMP underscore is so many people misinterpret that.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess
but
the
if you put an underscore, they're like, what the heck? Why is this here?
I'm not gonna lie. If I saw that, I'd be
it.
like, is that some sort of system table or something? I'm not gonna touch that. Yeah. It's a good strategy.
Exactly.
Scare the DBA or
do
the devs
underscore not underscore touch underscore users.
Yeah.
Yes, Steven, don't touch the users.
Do not touch users. Oh man.
Yeah. We actually did. We were working on something very similar to that, like just a couple of weeks ago, where we're working on like this mass import script to be able to import like a CSV with like hundreds of thousands of students, like within a short period of time. And we're in this like long tech discussion where my boss and like some of the seniors on my team were like all going back and forth about like, okay, so like, because we had to import these two tables, and we're gonna start to write to one and then like check back to see if there's new records and stuff like that. This huge long discussion. And eventually, like halfway through the conversation, I had an idea very similar to what you said. And then they got to the end, they created this whole like tech plan for how they were gonna like set up this structure to do this massive import. And I just go, hey guys, what if we just like wrote all of the data to like this TMP underscore students table. And then when it was done, start a transaction, delete the old table, swap the name, commit the transaction, and then you're good. Yeah, it worked. Yeah.
There you go.
That's a fantastic strategy. I love that one. The other one I've tried in the past that was kind of fun is putting it in something, another data warehouse of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to explain to people like, this is a data warehouse. That data does not go away. It does not get manipulated. It is only there for reference.
Yeah.
And then convincing them to not touch it. That's a fun one.
Okay. So, something else I'm kind of curious about, Kevin. You guys have Dan Heron on the team.
We did.
Right? Mr. Filament.
Yeah.
I would assume, yeah, whatever. I would assume he's a pretty busy guy because like Filament is so incredibly popular. Lots of pull requests, lots of issues. And obviously he's not the only one working on it, but like, yeah, has that been, I don't know, like what has it been like working with someone who is kind of a main maintainer for that prominent of a package, right? Is it like super cool? Because if you guys, I'm assuming are you using Filament at Canyon? I think you are.
Yeah, we are.
Is it kind of cool that it's like, oh man, Filament did this like for Canyon, and then it's like, sweet, I'll put that in V4. But I imagine there's also other times, right, where he's just a super busy guy. So is there anything that you could itch my curiosity with and just talk about what it's like to work with Dan and kind of in the context of that?
Sure. Yeah. So Dan's extremely one of the most talented developers I've ever worked with. Like he accomplishes tasks not just in Filament, but like in the work we do, like at like a crazy pace and rate and like degree of accuracy that like terrifies me. I don't understand when he sleeps or like how he's able to do this, like how he maintains Filament and still like works as a software engineer like on our team. He just does such a great job. Yeah, no, we operate independently of Filament. Like Dan has like, if we ever like work on something and like I think the import system that Filament kind of added in, the version of that exists in Filament now, Dan originally wrote a lot of that for a part of the work that we were doing. And when we sort of like find things like that where we're kind of working on something and Dan says like, hey, this would be something great to kind of share with the community in Filament, we let him have time to kind of put that in Filament, work on that. But we try to like stay really away from like influencing it. Like we don't want Filament, like we don't have any say in what Dan does with it, and don't try to influence him in any way. Sometimes I try to make little comments because I can't help myself and just be cool if you added this or something like that. But he doesn't listen to me. But yeah, and yeah, we just kind of like operate like he acts as a regular software engineer while working. We talk a little about Filament. He offers when he can. Some things he'll say like, oh, this would work. Sometimes it doesn't, and we just kind of like fork things. We do things like pretty differently sometimes in the way Filament will recommend it by default. Even like Filament by default will recommend like putting like the form and table and everything in a single resource. So you kind of share that between the create and edit page. I'm like very undry in a lot of respects. So like I don't do that. I like don't have us do that. We like duplicate the form often and edit and create pages. So we kind of like veer a little bit from the default.
So
yeah.
have you guys heard this new phrase? It's called wet code.
Yeah.
Write everything twice.
Yep. Yep.
I like that.
I'm very much a believer of that. Yeah. Abstracting early is like the enemy to me. Trying to do stuff like thinking too far ahead. You never know. Like we operate so agile, like we have 1 week sprints. So like we never know whether what we're doing is the correct thing to do. So we've
You want
we've always
feedback
just kind of,
as early as possible. That makes sense.
yeah.
You want your iterations to end right away, which makes sense.
Okay. Now you're taking me down another path. Here we are with a much longer episode than I meant to have, but
Yeah,
you just made me think
Steven
of something.
started was like, we're going to do 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
only.
Not
Here we
If
go.
you're
Doing
still
this at
here,
night.
by the way, thank you.
at 9:00. I'm bugging out, and here we are. But I'm kind of curious. Okay, so you guys do 1 week development sprints.
Mhm.
Wet code. I like this term. This is a new one for me. Totally.
You know the
picking
best
that
part
up.
about wet is it stands for write everything twice, but it could also be write everything three.
All right.
Okay.
Three.
Price.
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 Yeah.
Price.
Yeah.
Great band, by the way.
Have you guys doing like, I don't know, whatever, thinking about problems in a 1 week time period and stuff like that? Have you seen it contribute at all to technical debt where you're like,
We iterated too
man,
fast.
we really did hack this out like really quickly because that's the way we operate. And now here we are 2 months later and it shot us in the foot.
Yeah. We've never had a shot in the foot experience.
Kevin's like,
We've
we're
always,
perfect.
We're,
We just always
we're
do
perfect.
We have
And
Dan
everything.
Heron on the team.
Look, we have Dan Heron on the team. Look at it. It's public. It's perfect every single time. No comments on PRs. They're immediately merged. No,
We run no
Oh.
error monitoring, nothing.
no CI, none of that. Yeah, it's just it merges in directly into main. Yeah, no. So we never had like a real big shot in the foot thing, mostly because we've been operating in 1 week sprints since like the foundation of the company for like almost coming up on 2 years now. I think since I started working on the project itself. We've always operated in kind of 1 week sprints. And so we've always looked at things from that perspective. And so we know like we feel like we found this balance of like where we make the cut, like where we make the cut when we cut a corner, and we remember where that piece is. And we always have like a back door. Amazon has I was trying to remember it. It's like I think the principle is called like a two-way door problem or something like that. Like you need to have an immense amount of discussion if the pathway you're going down is a one-way door. But if the pathway you're going down is a two-way door, you could come back, then you can take that risk. You don't have to like look into it that much. So we always try to find that like two-way door where we can kind of like get an iteration out for something. We know that like it's not perfect and it's not perfect in these ways, and those become like backlog items that go into the next week and the week after that. But like it has contributed to like significant technical debt. But if you can do it like in a conscious way, you can keep track of that. You know what I mean? Like you know that it's there, you know where it is, you know what you have to refactor. So there's technical debt, but like it's always, I feel like the worst technical debt is the stuff that you just like, I feel like this part of the code is bad, but like I don't know why. Like we've always tried to like document like this is why it's bad. Like we need to go back and like do this right. Like, and we know how to do it right, but we just don't have the time, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, known technical debt isn't quite as bad as unknown technical debt.
Yeah.
So do you guys ever find yourself with problems or something that you're trying to solve that is bigger than like a 1 week thing and you just have to put more time into thinking about it, right? And it's just, does that stuff come up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's just some things that you do, in all development that can't take a week, like something that's so complicated or so pervasive throughout the code base that it just kind of carries over for us. And we're not like so strict that we're not like so strict that like if a ticket carries over, end of your career, something like that. If as things carry over, it's totally fine. Yeah, we just kind of keep an eye on it and see if we need to shift priorities or see if there's other ways. Like now that we've worked on it, if we can take the increment where it's at and and see if there's benefit from that, and if we need to pivot. But typically we kind of see something through, and if it takes a little bit longer, then it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Now, for you guys at Canyon, and like the engineering roles, do you guys have a spread of junior and senior developers? Are you guys all seniors? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's like a pretty good spread of like more mid-level to senior to like the software engineering, which we kind of consider like more of a senior principal level architectural discussion role. So we have quite a bit of a spread there. There's also discussion of like opening up in the future to even more junior roles, for further mentorship programs, if not internships in the future. We've been thinking about that quite heavily, being in higher education space, like helping folks in education and career is so important to us. But yeah, so we have like a pretty nice spread right now, I think, of experience and like folks coming from different backgrounds, different areas. And so we even do like a collaborative meeting every single workday in which we all just kind of help each other with problems that we have. I'm not typically, you'd think that's stand up. We have like a separate stand up meeting, but then there's also just like another meeting that we have that we're just like, if anybody's stuck on anything, kind of go from there. We kind of split that stuff apart from stand up. Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you guys, since you do have, individuals like yourself and then the juniors, other than, for example, these meetings, is there anything else that you guys have found to be particularly helpful to like bring some of the mid or junior developers like up to speed really quickly, right? Has it been like pair programming sessions? Has it been answering Slack questions with really clear communication? Anything like that? That's kind of an area that I'm somewhat interested in, like trying to help new developers, especially within the Laravel ecosystem, like get into it. But like everybody has to start somewhere. I did it through ingesting an enormous amount of Laracasts, but like other people might choose other options. And
Steven
also,
just likes Jeffrey Way's voice. He falls asleep to it every
Who
night.
doesn't? Who doesn't?
Well, he lives like an hour from, away from where I'm originally from. So, I had that, whatever.
So
that
it's like
doesn't
being at
matter.
home
I don't
for
know.
you.
It was really weird. He's like, oh, and he lives outside of Orlando. Anyway, I have just sort of seen from my own experience that as you get more and more senior into developer roles, you shift into helping, newer developers actually do the code, and you're sort of helping guide and provide a perimeter in like what they're doing and architecting things. And so, yeah, knowing any strategies that work really well for bringing juniors up to speed, making sure that what they do doesn't go way off the rails, like communication stuff.
I know that
like,
this is already a really
that?
long question, but I'm going to piggyback off of it.
Okay.
Let's add third party, or not third party, but like the extended ecosystem. So not just the Laravel, the framework, but Laravel, Envoy, Forge, Cloud, Telescope, Horizon, Reverb. The list keeps going. But how do you
even like Filament, Nova, like major packages and stuff like that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me piece together the answer. No, that's okay. That's no problem.
I thought we asked the question long enough that you would have time to answer the question you had.
Oh, yeah, I should have started to write it out. Honestly, yeah.
You should just blanked us out about 5 seconds into my question.
No. I got it. Yeah. So, so I can really like mostly answer from like being an enterprise like corporate role, right? Like training out folks on a team like that. So, like we're huge about open spaces and like open communication. That meeting I talked about a bit, just to end the discussion on that. Like it's like a loose requirement. Everyone sort of shows up regardless of if you need help or not. Because I just have this I have this ideology that like, even if you're only half paying attention, like you're still kind of working on your items and everything, but somebody else is getting help. So you like overhear like somebody was having this problem or something related to it, like later on, like weeks or months later, when you kind of run into something similar, something might click, like you might remember some part of the conversation, or at least remember who had that problem and reach out to them. So we really like to do that. We created,
I just so happen to knows.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
love those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
They're
don't know
great.
why I know this, but here's the thing that I know.
I feel like someone said that. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Dan and I, like, and a few others, like early on when the project started, we created this thing called the developer handbook, at our organization, which we listed like all of the things that we know and that we know that we use, including like advanced knowledge of filament, advanced knowledge of Livewire, advanced knowledge of Alpine, and just like listed everything out. And like, here's like what software engineer at Canyon GBS like knows typically. And then we took that whole list and we like scoured the internet for Laracast videos, free YouTube videos, courses, articles, documents, and just sort of created this like large repository that continues to grow of just resources. And so whenever folks have like I always say, like whenever you have downtime, or I try to dedicate a little bit of time for folks throughout the week to be able to just like read through that and just start to kind of expand their knowledge and ask questions about it. I have a complete open door policy, like, and I try to pair, like we do pair programming during those meetings and stuff like that. That's like huge to try to help folks in getting up to speed on things. And then really like getting into like the meat of our project, trying to give them like a simple task for when they're first starting off, and then I just kind of like keep an eye on their progress and like give them something that I feel will push them towards something that they haven't had experience with, that they haven't had a huge amount of experience with, like Tailwind or something like that. I give them, I'll try to find a ticket that will be like redesigning like one page or something like that, making some style changes on one page so they can start to get like exposure. I got a degree in web design, um, and then really largely self-taught from that. And so like, I just feel like experience is just like one of the biggest experience, in working with folks that like have done it before is one of like the best ways to learn. And so just like pairing when I can, um, offering up code review, being open and honest and kind in code review, like not just saying like, well, this is not correct or something like that, but like explaining like, hey, I think we should do this here for this reason, for X, Y, and Z, and just kind of really going into the explanation there and following up and following up with them at that point and see if they have any questions on like the reason why. Because I think that's one of the things that makes like a good programmer, in my opinion, is somebody like, you care about the reason why something works. You want to know like, how does the service container work in Laravel? Like you want to like delve into that, and like that curiosity, like anyone I think can be an amazing programmer if you have that curiosity there. So just like really like allowing an environment where that can flourish, and you can just like have folks that have done things that you can ask questions on, and like never feel afraid to answer ask those questions. I think like that's like one of the best ways to form like a good mentorship, like a good training program. I'm still trying to learn it. Honestly, I'm fumbling a little bit with the answer here towards the end, because it's such an interesting question. Like, how do you like, what's the best ways to train folks? And it's something I still try to find every day. And then to your question, Carl, like working on finding those resources for like filament and more advanced ecosystem things. One of our questions during some interviews is like, what's your experience in the community? And we like to hear about that. And we like to get folks at our company involved in the Laravel community. We plan to attend Laracon this year and the years afterwards, and just get really invested into it, because it's such an amazing, kind, and like strong community that Taylor and the team and everybody, folks like you guys have kind of built up, and created just such an amazing ecosystem. So getting like sharing posts from Laravel news and stuff like that amongst coworkers, getting them really into the ecosystem, I think is huge. We're not the last thing I'll say about what Carl said is we're not so much like I'm not always so in tuned into the, the products like Forge and Laravel Cloud as much as the rest of the community because we've created our own way of deployment um, that is a little weird. So like I
Did
haven't
anybody else
used
see
Forge.
Steven's ears perk up? Like he was like a new way of deployment? I saw that. I don't know how. I just saw it in his head. He was like, he's going
Perks
to
up
ask
a
that
little bit.
question. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Now say like I'm sure somebody's done what we've done before, but like but yeah, so I haven't used Laravel Forge uh in quite some time. In the beginning when we first launched the app, I actually used Envoyer, I think actually much Envoyer, right? I think it's called.
Envoy is good.
Use Envoyer. Yeah, Envoyer is good.
That's zero downtime deployment.
It's coming to Forge soon. They're going to,
Yeah.
Taylor tweeted this. They're killing Envoyer, and all the features of Envoyer is moving to Forge.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. That would be really nice. I
That
think like
will be.
I think they'll do a really good job. Like, because it was kind of there was a time period where it wasn't getting a whole lot because they were mostly focused on Forge and Vapor and getting cloud out. But I think rolling that into Forge will be really good.
I
Really
think it's
good.
going to help them a lot because it's not a huge team, but they do have a lot of applications, and that fragmentation
Yeah.
can make it difficult.
For
So
sure.
I think that helps tie it all together. And then they only have 3 things for like server management, deployment kind of thing. You have Forge, you have Vapor,
Yeah.
and you have Cloud.
Yeah.
Versus right now, it's like, oh, we've got to manage that. Oh, this new feature came out. We want to integrate it with Forge, but it kind of falls into the Envoy ecosystem. So which one does it really belong to? Like, what feature does that belong, or what base does that
Product.
belong in? I guess.
Yeah.
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 That makes sense. Okay, Kevin, you just dropped like a whole bunch of stuff that I would love to talk about, but we're gonna have to wrap this up at some
Yeah,
point.
I'm thinking part 2.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
One question I do want to ask though, you guys mentioned this developer handbook. Is that also
any
something?
chance of open sourcing that?
Yeah, is that available?
That's not. But me
How can I get my hands on that?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So not
How
not available for now. Yeah.
How many job
but-
applications do I have to fill out to get to that?
Just one, just one, and then a couple interviews. But it could be you. But
That's
yeah.
great.
No, that's
right.
not. Yeah, that's an internal thing. But we actually, to speak on that a little bit, we are like we've been thinking for a long time about like something similar to Laracast, right? Like courses and possibly maybe even putting on Laracast or doing something different about like working in an enterprise mass scale environment in Laravel. And so I think like something like the developer handbook would probably be something we'd include in that sort of stuff.
I am sending you a really awesome resource. I don't know if you've heard of Project IXDF. Let's see. It's
Sounds familiar.
yes. It's the interactive design but they have like an open source handbook that talks about like writing Laravel and Vue code in a succinct way, and then like they give you examples of like the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, don't do this. This is ugly and doesn't work. And here's a good example of how to do things. If you could take this and like 10x it and make it open source, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is similar to what we're doing, what we want to do. But yeah, I have to look through this. I haven't seen it. Nice.
They even cover like SQL conventions. They're like, don't do this. You're gonna write a really slow query that does n+1, and don't do it.
Yeah.
It's just bad. And so yeah, it's kind of neat. Steven, how do we put that in the show notes for people? Because now I've mentioned it, and they're like, where the heck do I find that?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do it on Transistor.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
This show
That's pretty
is
cool.
technically sponsored by Transistor still. So we should probably mention them. Good job, Steven.
Yes. Go me.
Go, Steven. I
Yeah,
should go get
man.
the Transistor hat, shouldn't I? Just
It's
kidding.
all good. All right, Kevin. I do think this is now twice as long as I thought it was going to be, but this was a really, really good conversation. I had a lot of fun. Learned a lot of really neat stuff. Don't agree with anything you're saying about Postgres, but that's okay. We'll have another.
Oh, that's
I'm
yeah,
just
that's
kidding.
okay. Part two. We'll battle it out.
SQLite for life.
I'm going to sit on the side. Okay, so Steven knows this, but nobody else does. So I'm going to admit this on the podcast. I don't like popcorn, but I'm going to sit I'm going to sit on the show eating popcorn, just watching this, just to see
Dude,
how
I eat
this goes
enough
down.
popcorn for the both of us. It's like,
yeah, me too, man.
it's my guilty
I'm reeling
pleasure.
from that. I'm gonna have popcorn after this now, and I'm gonna think about Carl while I do it. Yeah.
I'm fresh out. Gotta go get some more. Kevin, if you have any socials or anywhere that you'd like people to
Now
kind
is the
of
time
find
to say
you
them.
or can it? Well, I was just gonna say it's usually easiest. Just drop them in the show notes, and then people can just click on them.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
We'll get that stuff. And for any listeners, just look down there. You can see where to find Kevin, Canyon GBS, all that stuff. Ooh, we can even include maybe a link to where people can apply for a role.
For sure.
So
Absolutely.
if you're listening to this soon enough, then that might still be relevant. And I think we might
Assuming
have
I
to do a
don't
part
beat you
2
to it.
after a little while.
Yeah.
So this has been fun. So
Yeah.
do we have any final things that anybody else wants to say? Carl, Kevin, you guys good?
No, this has been fantastic. Thanks for having us on your show, because this was more you than us, which I really like. A lot of times it's like us filling in for people, and it's been nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you too.
Yeah, you've done great, Kevin.
Thanks.
Excellent first podcast. Way to go.
Yeah, the first one in the books. Yeah.
Wrap
All
that
right.
up. Was this your last question? Was this your New Year's resolution that you were going to be on a podcast?
You know, it was actually part of a New Year's resolution to like revamp my like internet image. So I like redid my whole website in black and white text and like real fancy to try to copy like some of like the
You
like
copied my website.
yeah, I kind of straight up copied it. Yeah, just like make it look real refined. And I was like, if I could get on a podcast too, that'd be awesome. So yeah, you are accomplishing it in some way. Yeah.
Here we go. We've done it. All right,
3
everybody.
months in. Good job. I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Not
Thank you,
back to the
Kevin.
gym.
Yeah, that's right.
Nailed it.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, listeners. We'll catch you guys all in the next episode.
See you.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.